You know that feeling, that really deep, um, satisfying sense when things just click? Like
Yeah.
that wash of rightness when some hidden truth finally comes out, or, when something totally unfair gets fixed. It's more than just relief, isn't it? It feels fundamental, like the universe itself just took a breath.
It absolutely does. And what's really fascinating based on the material we're diving into today is that feeling isn't just learned. It's not just cultural. There's good evidence suggesting it's actually woven into our human nature.
Okay, let's really unpack this then. This deep dive is all about exploring why that feels so good. We're pulling insights from, a whole range of fields: biology, neuroscience, philosophy, even physics and math, surprisingly.
Right. It's an exploration into what the source material calls the science of human nature, but really focused on this deep affinity we have for truth.
So our mission today is what? To figure out where this pull comes from.
Yeah, pretty much. Understand the roots of this attraction to truth. See how it impacts, everything from our own lives right up to global stuff. And then we have to tackle the big paradox. If truth feels so fundamentally good, why do we humans, go against it so often?
Right.
We're basically digging into the science of human rules, the ones we seem built to follow, and the ones we seem just as built to break.
And the source argues pretty strongly that this feeling, when truth wins out, it's remarkably consistent. It's not just some people, some places.
That's a key point. It cuts across demographics. Gender, for instance, that feeling seems universal. Age groups, too. Look about little kids shouting, "That's not fair," when someone lies to get ahead. Instinctive, right?
Totally. Or like the quiet satisfaction an older person might feel when they say, "See, the truth always comes out." It spans our whole lives.
And culturally, the expressions might vary, but that underlying value of truthfulness, it underpins relationships and societies almost everywhere. You see it in proverbs, stories. Countless cultures warn against deceit and celebrate honesty.
Makes sense from a historical perspective, too. Trust must have been vital.
Absolutely critical. Think about hunter-gatherer groups. Survival depended on honest communication. Fast forward to today, our complex societies. They're built on legal systems, economic agreements, all needing a foundation of trust. Truth is a cornerstone.
The source uses a really powerful example. The reaction when someone who was wrongly locked up for years is finally exonerated.
Oh, yeah. That global wave of feeling relief, joy, but also anger at the injustice. It's such a clear demonstration of how deeply we value truth and justice and how good it feels when they finally actually align.
And you're saying that feeling isn't just sympathy for the person.
No, it's like objective reality itself, which got twisted, has been set right, order is restored. And that, the source argues, taps into something really fundamental inside us.
Okay, so this good feeling isn't just some vague idea. There's actual science behind it. Let's start with our basic wiring biology, genetics.
Right. Evolutionarily speaking, humans are super social animals. Our whole deal is cooperation. And you can't really have cooperation without trust. And trust, it needs honest communication, basically. So over huge timescales, natural selection would likely favor individuals and groups who are better at forming strong social bonds. Honesty is just foundational for that.
So it's not like one single truth gene or something?
No, nothing that simple. It's more like a genetic basis for the complex systems in our brains and bodies that reward behaviors needed for social living.
Yeah.
Things like fairness, truthfulness. They help the group stick together.
Is that related to the helper's high idea?
Exactly. That concept where doing something altruistic, maybe standing up for fairness or telling the truth to protect someone, can actually trigger endorphins. It gives you a positive feeling. It's like a biological well done for helping the group.
Huh. Our body's literally rewarding us for stuff that helps everyone. That leads right into neuroscience then. There's a clear brain connection.
Oh, absolutely. Research shows pretty clearly that when we see fair outcomes, or maybe when a complex truth suddenly makes sense, it activates the brain's reward pathways. Dopamine gets released. Same stuff involved with basic rewards like food or feeling connected to others.
So the brain is essentially saying, yes, that was good, do more of that, reinforcing truth's value.
Precisely. It's wired to find truth rewarding.
And what about the flip side, that really uncomfortable feeling when things aren't true or aren't fair?
That's cognitive dissonance. Our brains really like internal consistency. They don't like conflict. So holding two opposing beliefs or seeing something happen that clashes with facts or your values, like a blatant injustice, creates this mental static, this discomfort.
And finding the truth resolves that.
Exactly. Discovering the truth or seeing justice happen brings mental harmony back, relief, and that feels good. It's the brain settling back into coherence.
Fascinating. Our brains actively seeking coherence.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Philosophy. They've been wrestling with truth for ages. What do they add? Well, philosophy gives us the frameworks. Like the correspondence theory of truth, basically, a statement is true if it matches reality. Aligning our understanding with how things actually are isn't just intellectually neat. There's a kind of existential satisfaction there, knowing things as they are.
And it ties into ethics, virtue.
Deeply. Philosophers from way back, Aristotle to Kant, have argued that a good life, a moral life, is guided by reason and truth. And the idea of a just society, it's always linked to valuing and seeking truth.
Okay, now for the really surprising connection the source explores, physics and mathematics. How on earth do these abstract fields relate to a feeling about truth?
It's more about powerful analogies, maybe reflections of how our minds work because they're part of this universe. Think about symmetry and simplicity. In physics, the most basic laws often turn out to be incredibly elegant, simple, symmetrical. In math, proofs that feel right are often the elegant ones.
Occam's razor, the simplest explanation is often the best.
Right. It's not just a handy rule. It might reflect a deep intuition that truth itself has a certain simplicity, a lack of unnecessary knots and contradictions. Lies are complicated.
And our brains, being pattern-seeking machines evolved in this universe, naturally find that kind of coherence satisfying.
That seems to be the idea. Truth, in its pure form, should be consistent, non-contradictory. Lies inherently create logical tangles, inconsistencies. So when a lie gets exposed or a complex truth becomes clear, it's like resolving a puzzle. It brings order to our understanding.
And that feels good.
Yes, that imposition of order, that coherence, feels inherently satisfying, maybe because it makes the world feel more predictable, less chaotic. It sort of echoes the fundamental logic we see in the universe itself.
Wow, so that simple click of rightness, it's biologically rewarded, neurologically soothing, philosophically sound, and even resonates with physics.
Yeah.
It's quite a compass.
It really is. And this deep pull towards truth, it doesn't just stay inside us. It ripples outward. Big time.
Okay, how so? Starting with us as individuals.
Well, for you personally, living a life aligned with truth, being honest with yourself. With others, research links that strongly to psychological well-being. You tend to have stronger relationships built on trust, a clearer sense of who you are. Carrying deceit, that's a known path to anxiety, isolation, feeling fragmented.
And that scales up to communities.
Definitely. Communities where trust and transparency are high, they're just more resilient, more cooperative, more prosperous. Valuing truth isn't just some lofty ideal, it's actual social capital. It makes everything work better. Governance, business, just neighbors helping each other out.
And then globally, it feels essential for the big problems.
Absolutely. Climate change, pandemics, international relations. You can't tackle these without a shared commitment to truth. You need diplomatic truth, even when it's hard for peace. When truth gets manipulated on a massive scale, that's when you see instability, conflict.
Which brings us squarely to the ethical side of things, truth as the bedrock of right and wrong.
Yeah, the source is explicit about this. Our whole idea of justice, ideally, is about finding the factual truth to deliver fair outcomes. Right and wrong, in a social sense, are tied to what's factually true about what happened, what someone intended.
And the social contract idea.
Right, that unspoken agreement we have to live together by certain rules. A basic part of that is expecting honesty. Breaking that expectation, being deceitful, isn't just impolite. It's seen as ethically wrong because it damages the trust that holds society together.
But what about those tricky situations? The source mentions the noble lie debate.
Ah, yes. The classic philosophical question. Can a lie ever be justified if it's for a perceived greater good? But notice, as the source points out, the very fact that it's a debate, framed as a rare exception, actually proves the rule.
How so?
Because it shows that truth is the default. It's the baseline we expect. Any deviation, even for supposedly noble reasons, needs serious justification and scrutiny. Truth is norm.
Okay, so we've established truth feels good, it's biologically rooted, neurologically rewarding, philosophically vital, echoes the universe, builds better societies. Which brings us right back to that massive paradox. Why? Why do we lie? Why do we fight against this powerful, innate pull?
It's complex. It's a clash of competing forces within us. And interestingly, some of those forces are also rooted in our biology and psychology.
Like basic survival instincts, self-preservation, trying to get ahead.
That's probably the biggest counterforce, yeah. Lying can feel like a shortcut. A way to dodge punishment, grab an immediate advantage, protect our ego, maybe manipulate things to go our way.
The short-term gain can seem way more appealing than the long-term benefit of honesty.
Exactly. The immediate reward, or avoiding immediate pain, is incredibly tempting. The benefits of truth can feel abstract or far off.
And our own brains sometimes work against us, right? Those cognitive biases.
Oh, absolutely. Our brains use shortcuts heuristics that aren't always aimed at pure objective truth. Think confirmation bias.
Right, seeking out stuff that confirms what we already think.
Yeah, we're wired for it. It makes us less likely to really hear or accept information that challenges our views, even if that information is true.
And then there's that Dunning-Kruger thing.
Where being incompetent at something also makes you unable to recognize your incompetence. So people can end up confidently stating things that are just plain wrong because they don't know enough to know they're wrong.
And the illusory truth effect. That sounds worrying.
It is. Just repeating a false statement over and over makes it feel more true. Familiarity breeds acceptance, sometimes bypassing our critical thinking entirely. And often, these aren't conscious choices to deceive, they're just how our brains sometimes operate.
So cognitive shortcuts. What about emotions? Strong feelings can just blow rationality out of the water.
For sure. Fear, anger, even intense desire or greed, they can completely override our rational commitment to honesty, our innate preference for it. We might lie because we're scared of the consequences of the truth, or lash out with false accusations when we're angry.
And the social pressure, wanting to belong.
Hugely powerful. Groupthink, conformity. People might know something isn't true but keep quiet, or even go along with the falsehood, just to fit in, to maintain their standing in the group, avoid being ostracized. That need to belong can definitely trump the need for truth sometimes.
Wow, so it's a real internal battleground, an innate drive for truth versus self-interest, brain quirks, emotions, social dynamics. Given all that complexity, how do we even begin to nudge things towards more truthfulness? The source talks about systemic thinking. What does that mean here?
Right. Systemic thinking means stepping back from just blaming individuals that person lied. Instead, you look at the whole system, the interconnected parts, the structures, the rules, the incentives, the feedback loops that might actually encourage or enable dishonesty.
So it's about changing the environment, not just fixing people.
Exactly. To foster a more truthful society, we need to apply this thinking to the systems around us, especially how information flows, how decisions are made.
Okay, so what kind of systemic changes does the source suggest might help?
Well, reforming our information ecosystems is a big one. That means things like demanding more accountability from algorithms on social media platforms, transparency about why we see what we see, maybe prioritizing accuracy over just grabbing attention. There's even mention of ideas like a potential truthfulness score for sources based on fact-checking and reliability.
Counterbalancing the flood of potential misinformation.
Yes, and also investing in things like strong public media, local journalism places dedicated to reliable information as a public service.
Education has got to be key too, right?
Absolutely fundamental. Teaching critical thinking skills from early on, media literacy, how to actually evaluate sources, spot manipulation, and making sure people understand common cognitive biases, logical fallacies, giving them the tools to navigate the information world more effectively.
What about at the level of government and leadership? Systemic changes there.
It points towards things like systemic transparency and accountability, real protections for whistleblowers who expose wrongdoing, and clear enforced consequences for leaders or officials who deliberately mislead the public. The integrity of the whole system depends on that.
And that leads to that interesting data-driven idea. The source floats the potential rule of retirement for certain roles.
Yeah, it's a fascinating, if maybe controversial, example of systemic thinking applied to governance.
Yeah.
The argument isn't about any specific person, but about system integrity. For really high-stakes roles, think certain judges, key security positions, where clear cognition is absolutely critical. Could you set a mandatory retirement age based not on politics or tradition, but on actuarial data about cognitive decline?
Using population statistics.
Right. The source gives an example formula, something like retirement age of peak performance plus 2 standard deviation of decline onset. Basically, take the typical age cognitive function peaks, add a buffer based on how much the start of decline varies in the population. To set a rule aimed purely at protecting the system's decision-making capacity in those critical spots. It removes the personal element and uses data.
That's a purely systemic approach, focused on function. And the last point was about culture, intellectual humility.
Yes, fostering a culture where it's okay to be wrong. where admitting you don't know or changing your mind based on evidence is seen as a strength, not a weakness. It's about shifting the culture away from ego defense and towards a collective search for better understanding. That counteracts some of those biases we talked about.
It feels like all these systemic ideas are about creating an environment, a set of rules and cultural norms where that innate preference for truth we started with, where it actually has a fighting chance against all those powerful forces pushing towards error and deceit.
That's exactly it. And the ultimate goal, the purpose of understanding all this science of valuing truth, is really about building a better world, a more functional one.
A society that genuinely values truth is just better equipped, isn't it? Better at solving problems, innovating, managing resources like food or the environment, because it's working with an accurate map of reality.
And maybe on the grandest scale, this human drive for truth, scientific, philosophical, personal, it reflects something about the universe itself, its inherent order, its laws. Understanding nature, from quantum physics up to the cosmos, helps us find our place. And maybe committing to truth in our own lives is a way of honoring that fundamental reality. It feels good because it aligns us.
So that simple, satisfying feeling, when truth finally clicks into place, it's not random. It's this incredibly deep signal, a compass, biological, psychological, philosophical, maybe even cosmic, pointing us towards a better way of being individually and together.
It is. And look, the forces pulling us away are real. They're powerful. Our biases, fears, the systems that sometimes reward the wrong things. It's a constant challenge. But the insight here, the wisdom from this science of human nature, is that through conscious effort, and especially through systemic changes, we can create conditions for truth to flourish more often, leading towards a healthier, more prosperous, and ultimately a more balanced world.
Which leaves a pretty significant question for you listening right now. Knowing about these internal biases we all have and the external pressures that can obscure truth, how consciously are you engaging in the effort to seek it out, to verify what you encounter? And maybe the toughest part, cultivating that willingness to actually change your mind when the evidence points a different way. Perhaps recognizing our own capacity for error is the crucial first step in truly honoring that deep truth-seeking nature we've been exploring today.
This is DigitView.